Alright guys, I thought I'd show you my kind of design process. I haven't even looked at these pieces yet. I have laminated them, joined them, cut them out, and chucked them in a pile. I have thought about what kind of bag I wanted to do. Eventually I'd actually like to do a fringed bag, but I don't have any fringing and I don't have any leather to make my own fringing. So I decided instead to go with this really nice suede. This is a purple upholstery suede. I think I got it from, it's called Warwick Macra Suede. So this tells me that I got this from the upholstery guy. So unfortunately I don't have a link to that. But I do know that Spotlight does sell upholstery suede. So you could just go and have a look at some colors there. So then I went, okay, what hardware do I want to use? And the official answer is I just got a shipment of new zippers with adorable little love hearts. So I want to make it a bit cute, and I'm going with gold. So then I've paired my gold vinyl. I was actually going to do another purple, but I don't have one that, like a vinyl that suits well enough for me to want to use it. And so then I've picked, even though this is grey with just a little bit of purple, I wanted something not too busy but not too plain, because the outside's very plain. So I thought that they match nicely. And even though it's grey and I'm using gold, when you sit them all together, they still look really nicely. So that's how I picked those. Now I'm going to show you how I kind of organize these. So the first thing I'm going to do is make separate piles. So if it's just lining, I'm going to put it there. If it's just vinyl, I'm going to put it here. And when it needs both, I'll stick it in the middle. So that's vinyl, vinyl, both. And so then the pattern here actually comes with these two are similar. So one is if you want to add piping. So again, I will do that video when I go and buy some fringing. So I'm going to add fringing instead of piping. And so we're going to use this one today. So it's for the outside. So I don't need this piece today. I'm going to pop it aside. And same goes with this piece here. So there's one for vinyl and one for fabric. I'm going to do my things out of vinyl. So I'm going to pop this one in the pile of I don't need it today. I'm still going to keep it though, because there's a good chance I'll need it for other things. So that's the piping strip. So I'm not doing that today, but that's how I would work out how much fringing I need. So you put this one on the fold, so I'd need that much. So you can kind of pre-organize before you go to the shop to get some. This one is lining and outside. This is vinyl. So this is my top panel. So I'm going to make the top panel out of vinyl. That's my choice. That's a lining. This fun little one is also a vinyl. And I actually think I've got the cut files for my scan and cut. So we might even do that on them. And then vinyl. A zipper end. So we need that out of the outside fabric. This is the stabilizer, so that needs another pile as well. Usually I have a stabilizer pile if it's just for like certain parts. This is an accent, so I want that in vinyl. This is a lining. And this is an outside. So now that I've got my piles, I'm going to start, I usually always start with my outside fabric in case I change my mind about the lining halfway through. It has been known to happen. Sometimes I get a bit indecisive, or I have a really good idea and have to do it right now. So I'm just going to use a pen, a normal pen. And I also want to make sure that I'm not getting the dots at the side. That's part of the selvage edge. We don't want that on our bag because we don't want already perforated fabric. So I'm just going to trace around it with a pen. You can obviously use friction pens or chalk pens or something. And then we want, so I'm just copying the amount that it says on the pattern pieces. So that still needs some lining. So now I'm going to switch this one into the lining pile because it's like a process. And then I'm going to take, so this is the bottom, so this is the top. I always try and make sure I'm doing them at the same time. Now, if your fabric's directional, you have to pay attention to which way you're putting things. And so I don't need anything else from this one. This one is an exterior and then just interfacing. So I'm going to pop that aside. So it wants one of these. Like that. And then I finished with that. And then this is 2 of these and 2 lining. Now, because it is a rectangle and when I laminated it, it got a bit of a curve, I'm actually going to flip it upside down so that it's going to sit nicer while I'm trying to trace around it. Even though I'm putting pressure on, I'm pushing on it. If I try to do it this way, I promise they're more stubborn because I have to get all the way to the edge, otherwise it's curling up. So that's why I do it that way. Okay. So that is that bit. And then I'm also going to need a strap. Where are my scissors? So I'm going to cut these pieces out. And then I'm going to use a rotary cutter and a ruler to cut the strap from the other end. So with all my fabrics and vinyl and everything, I always cut the straps with a rotary cutter from one end of the fabric, and then everything else gets cut out of the other end. It just saves me a lot of money. Because if I was to square this up now, I would waste a bunch of fabric that would be a weird shape and couldn't be used for anything else. So if I'm always cutting from the other end, it's always going to be straight on one end so that we're wasting nothing. The only downside to that is if you buy some of your fabrics in bulk. So I buy my black 5 meters at a time because I go through so much of it. So I have to unroll the 5 meters every time I need a strap. And you could potentially pre-cut a bunch, but then you've got to find a home for them as well where they won't get damaged. So that's why I don't do that. I have thought about it, but I think I'd want to hang them from somewhere. And you'd have to cut, you know, all the different widths. And I don't know, it just doesn't suit my needs. This room, even though it's huge, and I'm not complaining, I love my room, but it's not big enough to have things like that going on. So I'm just making a pile just in front of the camera. Now, I've never made this bag before, so I've looked at the picture and went, awesome. And I've had a few different ideas of the different fabrics I wanted to use, but I've ultimately gone with a suede because I haven't worked with one in a while. So I thought it might be something fun and different to look at. So they will still need interfacing, even though it's an upholstery suede and is quite thick, it's still too floppy to leave it as is. So I will be interfacing that in a minute. All right, and then I've got my bin just here. So I drag my bin around. It's actually on wheels. It gets dragged around my room. So now I want to think about what kind of strap I want to do. You can obviously do a little bit of anything. I'm going to do my double, like my fabric and vinyl straps, but I'm going to do it in the opposite way. So this is going to be the most, and then I'm going to put a thin strip of the gold accent on top, just to be different, because I can. So I'm folding it in half along the long edge, and then I'm going to fold it again, just so I can get it onto my table, and I want to line up these so that they're straight. So as a general rule, they're always straight. You've just got to maneuver them, because I've already cut this with a rotary cutter before. So now that that's nice and even there. We need a ruler, which I hang under the table, and my rotary cutter. And so whatever size strap you're going to do, this needs to be double that. And because there's a lot of layers, I am actually going to have to put some pressure. Never put your hand too close to this edge. I have seen a lot of horror stories where people cut their thumb and require stitches. And that's not where I'm at today. So I can already feel that this is so thick that I'm going to have to do a couple of passes. And then you can see it doesn't give way there. Alright, so now there's my strap. Now I will be cutting off this end because from the back you can see there's all the holes. So I always chop that off so that we don't accidentally use it, because we don't like those bits. So throw them in the bin, and then that will be my strap. If you're using a fabric that's only like 110 wide or 45 inches, you'll want to cut 2 strips, join them together, and then you'll just cut off the excess later. So that's now that piece done. Pop that back. That's actually not on the floor. There's a tub that it was living in. And now we're going to go to lining. I always cut vinyl last, mainly because it's a big roll and you have to maneuver everything. Now, luckily I won't have to use this bit here, but see how there's been a crease folded into it by the way that I did it? You should definitely iron them out before you try and cut your pieces. Alright. So I'm obviously trying to do this in a smaller space. Usually where the camera is, I throw the fabric. So I usually have it away from me, but because I'm showing you, we're going to have it this way. So I'm just going to do it sideways. So again, we're going to smooth it out on your table, and then we're going to grab all the pieces we need. These are the pieces that we've already done, so they can now go over here. And that, actually, I'm going to do the gusset in gold. Am I? Or do I want to do it? I might actually do that in suede. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking, right? You don't have to have a clear picture when you step up. You just feel it out. I know this might seem crazy, and fair enough if you need to have it all structured before you cut anything, but I'm feeling pretty okay with my decision to kind of wing it. This is what I do with most of the bags. So the video that went up for the hitchhiker bag, I winged that entirely. I went, I have a lot of dark green vinyl, let's use that. So I worked backwards in the color palette, and then I was like, ooh, I just got this goes, and then, yeah. Picked the lining because it was like a nice dark green, but that's the only reason. Okay, so we want 2 of these. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a crease here, so I'm pushing that down since I'm not ironing it. And I'm going to start at that end where the crease is. I highly recommend ironing it. I'm actually potentially going to turn the camera off and go and iron the rest of this, just to make it easier. So I will use a steam iron and just go over it, and that should help out. I'm going to do that because it's actually annoying me, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have ironed it. I also have to go out and feed the horses and unrug them and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's been like an hour since the last little bit of the video, but that's cool. So it's now ironed. I ironed more than I needed, just in case, because you never know. And so now I haven't cut them out yet, so I'm going to cut them out after. I tend to cut, I do all the drawing and then cut. It's just my process. It's less kind of alternating between scissors and stuff, really. And I'm not using the very, very edge. I don't know if you can see that from there, but I don't like the fluffy edge. So I'm going about 1/4 inch down from the fluffy edge. Alright, so it says 2 of them, 1 exterior. So we've done that. I also wanted to show you this. So this is my little hole punch. I think I got it from Kmart. It was like $2 or something. So as I'm doing the pattern, once I've like cut the pieces I need from it, I'm attaching it to my card loop. So I can get these, I think you can now get them from Kmart, but you can get them from $2 shops and stuff. They're designed to hold all the cards to all the different stores. You just punch a hole in them. So it helps me keep more organized in my space. So now I need 2 of these. So again, I've got it face down because of the way it's bending. I could also put it back through the laminator and it might straighten out. You never know. Might get worse too. Who knows? Alright, so again, hole punch. It's nothing expensive or fancy, and I imagine it will die because I'm hole punching laminated paper all the time. But until it actually dies, it's fine. And then I'll happily buy another $2 one. Okay, so this is the zipper pocket, and we're going to cut 2. Now, because of the way this zipper pocket is done, I will actually cut 2. But if we were doing the zipper pocket the way I normally do it in videos, I would just cut 1 on the fold. So instead of drawing that line, I'd stick the next one there. So I'm trying to line everything up as close together as possible so that I'm not wasting fabric. The only time I would fussy cut a lining is if you wanted to have like a sneaky thing inside your pocket. Yep. And I also don't put this hole too close to the edge because I don't want it to tear. I have a 4-year-old that has access to them. I don't want him to pull on it and it tears. So this is my zipper pocket facing. So again, I'm just going to trace around it. And you'll also notice I have cut out the inside box so that I can also trace where the zipper hole is going to be. So now I don't have to do it later. And because of the type of piece it is, I can actually skip the hole and just slip it on there. Slip pocket, cut 1. Tells me it's going to be one of those cool folded in half styles. You'll also notice that I'm putting these away because I won't be individually cutting the interfacing. That's not at all what I do. So gusset. We're going to do this on the outside. That's right. And then these are the pieces that we don't need because I'm not using them on this particular pattern. So I haven't actually cut that out properly yet. There's a good chance I'll probably never use this particular piece because I don't love having to do woven connectors. I like vinyl because it's quick and I think it looks classy. But either way, so there's a good chance I'll never use that. But I still cut it, laminate it, and add it to the pattern because you just never know. Sometimes I get inspired to do weird stuff. Weird stuff is definitely up my alley. Alright, so I'm going to start from the bottom piece. These aren't the normal scissors I would use. These are actually my vinyl cutting scissors. Let me go grab my other scissors, actually. Found them. So these are my fabric cutting scissors. And the reason I prefer to use these is because they're spring-loaded. So it's not as harsh on my hands. It wouldn't matter if I was only going to cut, you know, 1 bag a day. Probably wouldn't matter so much. But because I'm probably going to do this and then perhaps record another pattern afterwards and do some orders and stuff, I don't want to have arthritis. So I bought these scissors. I think they're like $50 or $60 at Spotlight, but they do go on sale for up to 40%. So you just wait till they're on sale. And you guys have seen how many videos and stuff I do, and I do a heap of work off camera as well, and they're still sharp, and I've had them for at least a year. I do a lot of cutting. What they don't ever cut though is zippers or paper, because I reckon that would wreck them. Sometimes if I can't find my zipper cutting scissors, I will use those other Class A ones, but I always make sure that I open them and cut the zipper at the very back of the teeth. So if it is going to wreck them, it's only at the very back. So I've still got use of the rest. Alright, so I'm just going to chop that off and sit it aside. So now I can come along and chop off the excess. I find it easy to cut off the weight of the fabric first, and then I can come back and cut around all the pieces. I do the same with my interfacing, so you're going to see that when we get to that. And I always cut out the triangles separately because it's easy to go around the curve and then just chop those bits out. Just make sure you don't fall for that old, you need to chop out the rectangle. Sometimes when I'm marking things, I will actually use a 4-pen and change colors so that I know that's not a cut line. I know it sounds silly, but sometimes I zone out. And so if it's a different color, my brain just knows don't touch that line. Another piece, and then I'll take the little bits and put them in the bin before they fall on the floor. And the trick to not hurting your hand with scissors is open them the whole way. Don't do lots of little cuts like this. Do big motions. Use the full range of your scissors. That's why you buy big scissors. I'm going to chop all the way across the top here. I could have just done that little section, but while it's a straight line, you may as well do all of it. You got to cut them all out anyway. And then I'm going to have to cut them out again when I go around the interfacing. I think they're playing with guns again. All my windows just shook. Okay, then I'm just going to chop this one in half. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually not chop this in half now and leave it for later, but I don't like to do it like that. Then I have to mark it again. Okay, so that's all my lining. I need to go back and cut the Gussety piece for the rest. Now again, we're not going to use the straight edge because if I decide to make another bag out of this, because I could get one more potential bag, so that edge would be the straps again. But we also need to make sure that we can get all of it because we've got to do this one on the fold. So if I was going to start making a lot of these, I would actually sticky tape the other side so I can lay it out. Especially because it's an outside piece. Now, I know I'm wasting here, but I need to make sure that it's not going to affect here. So I'm going to just shift it along a little bit more than I know I need so that I can waste as little as possible. And then here, when I get to the fold, I'm just going to put 2 little marks so that I can line it right back up again. And as you can see, this one also got a little bit curvy in the laminator. It's my fault though. I had stuff obstructing the other end, so when it went through, it hit it and then started curving, which is exactly what that shape is. But you can't win them all. So again, I'm going to punch that hole. Now this one needs foam. So this one I'm not going to put in there because I still need to cut the foam. Yeah, try and use the full range of your scissors You'll also find that they won't go blunt at the tip as quick if you're not constantly using it. I also, to get a nice straight cut, because people always ask me how do I cut so fast, the answer is the scissors are leaning on the table. So I'm not trying to stabilize it midair. It's already stabilized on the table. All I'm really doing is squishing it. And for the most part, I tend to move the fabric and not the scissors. That's probably another little thing that I do. All right. So I'm going to pack that up, put it back in the tub. I have a tub of all fun upholstery fabrics that I like to randomly use. Don't limit yourself to just one fabric. There's lots of cool ones. Alright, so this is my gold marine vinyl. The style is called Standard Pacifica. That's like the brand of it. So I don't actually need this one. I've done the strap. I'm not doing a chain strap mainly because I don't have any chain. So I'm going to put this one away. This is literally how I do it when I'm not on camera. I just don't talk to myself as much. Okay, so we need the top lining of the inside of the bag. Now, if I wanted to, I could do this out of the suede, but I want to just add a little bit of extra pop and color around, which is why I'm going to be doing this. The zipper ends, I'm going to cut one and show you how to do it, but I'm probably not actually going to use them because these have got cute little love hearts that I kind of want to show off. It's kind of sometimes a good idea to have an idea of what stuff you want to use. So like what hardware. Okay, so we're going to go up, down like that. Now I'm using this straight edge. Both of my edges are straight on this because when I roll my fabric, I always make sure that the end that I cut random pieces out of is always the easily accessible one, and then the other end is the straight edge. So I've done two of them. So again, hole punch. And this is just to tidy as you go. So this is a stabilizer. So I don't need that one. And then this one, so we need this one, and we needed our infinity. Now I haven't yet cut out here because I kind of wanted to show you how to do it. I plan on using a craft knife. So the way I would do it, or will do it, is I'm just going to cut slowly and deliberately around the gap. Now I did also make sure that I cut the paper out before I laminated it, even though I know I was going to have to do it again because it's just going to make it thinner and so therefore easier to cut. Now I've actually got half of it out. So if you're struggling with your knife, now's the time to switch to some scissors if you wanted to. I'm actually going to cut it this way. So I always make sure the blade's far away from me. And then I'm just going to maneuver around the curve. Like that. And you'll also notice that I have cut the actual pen line of up into this split so that when I lay it down, I can draw the line that I need to. So you don't want to make it too thick because then it'll become too flimsy. So for those that don't have a cutting machine, I am just going to cut all of these by hand. But she has made an SVG file for the smaller pieces so that you could actually cut them on your scan and cut or Cricut or whatever you've got going on. So this is my pocket accent. Obviously, if you wanted to put 2 slip pockets, you'd need to cut 2 of those. You'll also notice that everything is touching. I don't want to waste stuff unnecessarily. The only time I don't cut like this is if I've gone to an upholsterer and bought their, you know, scrappy leftovers and some of it's damaged. So I will always check the other side and let's just pretend that there's a damaged spot here. What I would do is I'd hold my finger, put it down like that, pinch it so that I know where it is, and then draw a circle so I know not to use that section. And that makes it easier than trying to trace it onto the top, because most vinyl accents, you're going to see the raw edge, so you don't want to see the pen line. So I'm just moving along. Trying to think of anything else you need to know. These pieces would also be really good if you've got scraps. So I've got bags of scraps that I've color coordinated for, you know, ease of use. But I don't have any gold. I've used it all. So again, hole punch, slide it on. Then I'm going to slide this up, mainly so you can see. I've deliberately built my table long enough to fit this, so that normally I wouldn't move it, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So we're going to do that. Okay. Also, if you're using something like a dragon scale vinyl or something with texture and direction, make sure that you're putting all of these in the direction you want them. So like these, if the scales are going this way, I'm most likely going to want to turn them so that I've got them going in the right direction. You also notice I'm not going the whole way down each side of this. You just want to do it in sections because you've got to hold it in place like that. So there's one. Then I'm going to top and tail it so that the bulk kind of levels out. Just do a little bit each side so that you can maneuver your fingers further down. And then around in there. And then across there. Do the split because I can get in there now. And also by cutting that, you're not going to oversplit it. Also important. And again, I don't have to punch a hole in that because it just loops on. Look at us go. And then I want to grab my... Oh, that's right. I was going to draw one of these out to show you how to do them. Right. There we go. I am going to hole punch that. I know it's small, so I'm probably going to hole punch it like right in the middle so that it doesn't get damaged. Well, not right in the middle, but fairly in the middle. You can also get different size loops of the card loops. These ones are quite large because if I was making MDF patterns, they'll still fit. But you can get much, much smaller ones. Alright, shift it over so you can see me cut. I always like to cut right to left. I'll always start this end and go that way. I don't know why. Possibly because I'm right-handed and I can get here easier. And again, you'll see I'm using full sweeping motions of my scissors. I actually think I'm cutting it in the same order with which I drew it. Not for any deliberate reason, but just because I am. The other thing that you could do is come here and then chop like the top edge of everywhere. So just go across roughly like that, up and across, so that it's not attached to the vinyl, so it's more maneuverable. Like that. So now I can, you know, move it around as much as I want. There's no trick to this. Just move the fabric more than you move your scissors would be my advice. Instead of trying to do this with your scissors, hold this and maneuver it around. You'll find it easier, I think. It might take a little bit of getting used to, but it is definitely easier to cut if you're maneuvering the fabric. And then even if you wanted to, you could rest your scissors down here like that. Much quicker. For little pieces like this, I like to lift it closer to my face. But if you've got sore back or shoulders or something, leaning it on the table will take the pressure off one whole arm. Across the bottom. You could also rotary cut these straight edges if you wanted to. If you're going to make a lot of bags, I highly recommend a cutting mat and a rotary cutter and some kind of ruler. You can actually buy kits. So the first one I bought come with this ruler. It's a So Easy kit, and you get a purple mat and a rotary cutter with it. And that lasted me ages. Like multiple years until I killed the mat. And you're meant to soak them in cold water, and I think it's vinegar. You put them in the bathtub. I don't know. There is a YouTube tutorial on it. So if your board ever starts to just not bounce back and heal as well, you stick it in cold water and whatever else it is. I'm pretty sure it's vinegar. And what it does is it rehydrates it so it lasts longer. So again, we're nearly finished. And again, I'm going to use a craft knife to cut that center out. If you don't have a craft knife, I would therefore recommend a smaller pair of scissors. Like a fun little zipper bit. Okay. Now this is going to be interesting. I'm going to try not to knock you off the table. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of roughly roll this end to make it easy to get to, so that I can then chop my accent panel for my strap out of the straight edge. This is going to look a little bit awkward because I'm standing in a different position to what I normally would, but we're going to get there. So I am going to do a 1/2 inch accent strip. So I'm just going to slice along, and then I move this up and down, make sure it's nice and flat, line the ruler up again, and you want to go slowly to make sure that your ruler doesn't shift, because it is a thing that can happen. If you're left-handed, cut in the opposite direction. But there, and so now my edges are perfectly straight. It's exactly 1/2 inch the whole way along. So as an accent that's obviously going to get attention, it's still going to look really nice. Okay, to the ironing board. All right, so the iron's warm, and this is my extra heavy iron-on non-woven. I really should rename it something fun. So I'm going to start at an edge. Doesn't really matter which edge, wherever you like. And I'm going to place all of the pieces down that fit on the ironing board. Now I've got some tears in this, but that's okay. Now I'm going to put that one down that edge. I'm not going to interface my strap because this is an upholstery vinyl. It's actually quite thick and won't need it. And then, I don't know, that one there. So we just want to use up as less space as possible, but I'm also avoiding that tear, which is why that one sits there like that. And then this is just baking paper. It's just a cheap baking paper from the supermarket. So now I don't have to worry about getting any of the glue on my iron, and I can just work my way across. You want to hold it for between 5 and 10 seconds, depending on how hot your iron gets. I'm doing about 6 to 7 with this iron, and I used to do 5 to 6 with my old iron. And as you can see, it hasn't quite stuck, so it tells me I have to do it a little bit longer, and that will just be because of the thickness of the vinyl. Not the vinyl, sorry, the upholstery suede. It's not vinyl. It's not vinyl. The gold's vinyl. But yeah, don't be afraid to use upholstery fabrics. They actually can come up really nice, especially for like bigger weekend or overnight kind of bags. So then you can just come, and I can still see that it's not sticking, but that's okay. I'm just going to hold it there longer. So instead of actually holding it there, I can just hover near it. And this is how, see, there you go, it stuck that time. I'm not going to damage my suede by ironing it. If this was vinyl, it would definitely get damaged, but the suede's fine because it's a fabric. You obviously don't want to hold it there for a full minute. You'll probably burn it and discolor it. But that is now, oh, no, it's still not. Awesome. So I do sometimes have this issue where it just doesn't want to stick. In which case, I will come along and cut a piece and then flip it over and iron it from the back. But I like to get at least one section ironed on so that it's not going to shift while I'm cutting it. And yes, I really do cut it like this off camera as well. Because this is a non-woven, your scissors are more likely to glide through it. So there's less cutting and more kind of, I don't know, tearing, I guess. Like that. So then we can flip it over and iron it from the back. Also though, if it's not sticking, double check that you've got the glue side up. I've played that game before as well. So this is the longest part for me. If I could have like one magical wish, I would wish that everything would magically iron itself. Because this is the part that takes the longest, because you have to hold the iron at the same spot all the time. You could also use your heat press if you wanted to, but you'd have to cut out the pieces. You can't do it like this. So that piece is now interfaced. Now that's actually pretty thick and will sit up quite nicely by itself. So I may not actually put the foam on that. I will put the foam in the gusset, because the gusset I want to sit out really nicely. Not that I don't want the bag to sit nicely, but I feel like it's got enough weight behind it because of the type of fabric I used. If you wanted it super stiff, you could do what I did in the hitchhiker bag and put stabilizer on all the panels, and then I skipped foam because it had stabilizer. Although foam would have been easier to turn. Alright, so again, I'm gonna iron that. And when I'm ironing from the back, you'll notice I don't need my baking paper, because it will behave itself. You could also give it a shot of steam from the back. I have a cool trigger. I really like this iron. It has a trigger, makes me happy. Don't know if you saw that, but it shoots quite a good amount of steam. So there's the front piece. That's just a piece of fluff, don't worry about that. Alright. So basically I will continue on like this, and then I will do the lining the same. I'm not going to make you watch all of it. I think I've given you every tip and trick I can think of. So after that, I've got a set of drawers that I keep all pre-cut patterns in. So one drawer per pattern. So I will go and put all the pattern pieces in there, get all of my hardware ready, and then I will go and record the video for you. So I'm going to stop it there because you probably don't need to see any more. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope you learnt something useful that you can either use or adapt to your situation. But yeah, I will see you all for the sewing. Bye!